Welcome to Financial Education, and today we're going to talk about what's a 401k and why you need one right now. So, in short, all the money you contribute is going to be pre-tax contributions, which means you don't actually pay tax on the income going into your 401k, which means you can invest significantly more than if you had to get the money into your bank account to then invest it later. The distributions are going to be pre-tax as well, which means once you get the money out after you retire, you actually pay tax on the income, which is in the normal income tax brackets. So right now, if you make $50,000 a year, you're paying the same tax on that as if you were getting $50,000 a year from the 401k. Obviously, that only applies to after you retire. There's a pretty hefty fine or fee or however you want to call it, penalty tax on it if you want to get money out of the 401k before that. So be mindful of that. And it's funded by your paycheck, which means that all the money that you contribute to the 401k comes directly out of your paycheck before you pay taxes on it, as I just mentioned. And that's pretty much the only way to actually fund your 401k. A 401k usually has very limited investment options, which means there's usually a few index funds that you can invest in, and there's also target date funds. So in mine, for example, I'm investing in a 2055 retirement fund, which gets rebalanced every year with stocks versus options versus, no, not options, stocks versus bonds. And it gets more and more conservative over time, so that in the end it's more about the conservation of money rather than the growth of money. But basically, you can just pick one of the investment funds or just throw all the money into the target date fund of whichever year you want to retire, or I would recommend going a few years beyond that. So if your retirement age, 59 and a half, is in say 2050, then I would recommend going for the 2055 or even the 2060 target date fund, because it's a more aggressive strategy in the days before you actually retire, which can influence the growth of your money in those fairly critical years. If you just happen to be in the middle of a recession when you were supposed to retire, you can just, add another year or two, probably get out of that, and have far more money in retirement than you otherwise would. The contribution limit for a 401k is currently $19,000 a year, which is your contributions, not the employer's contributions. There's also a limit on the total, which is ridiculous amounts like $55,000 a year right now. I would assume that you don't have an employer that just hands you $30,000 a year in your retirement on top of what you contribute, so that probably doesn't apply. But usually your employer matches to a certain percentage what you contribute, or half that. It depends on the employer. There's actually no income limit to who can contribute to the 401k. So as long as you're employed and your employer provides a 401k plan, you could make $1 million a year, you can still contribute the $19,000, which obviously is an insignificant amount at that point, but still. And usually there's an automated investment. I say usually, I assume all of them, but there's an automated investment, which means that once you pick what to invest in the very beginning, everything that comes out of your paycheck gets automatically invested in whatever you picked. So once you have set it all up, you can basically forget about it, and then 20 years later you're going to have a significant amount of money just sitting there. It's going to grow. I mean, I do suggest checking it from time to time, but I don't suggest making any choices after you initially set it up, unless you made a huge mistake somewhere. I really don't recommend just going week by week and just picking different investment options to invest in. Kind of just set it all up, make sure you're happy with what you're investing in, and then maybe check it once a year, maybe don't. Just leave it in there, have the money come directly out of your paycheck and grow, and then eventually you're going to get a pretty nice sum out of it when you retire. Make sure you hit the like button. Also, I'm posting a video every day before market open, so make sure to subscribe. I'm going over personal finance and investing. Have a good day.